Motion for the recording. Okay, it's 4 o'clock. I call this meeting December 14th, 2021. Anything?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, have you all read the November 23rd council meeting minutes?
Yes.
Any changes or additions?
There's a couple of things on 3 sub III should be options at length instead of in length. And the only under 4 should be, it was a responsive bid, not a complete bid.
Under 4 what?
3 IV 4. Roman 4.
Oh, Roman 4, okay.
I don't know what.
But
What?
where are you wanting responsive bid in there? It was a resolution and that was what the motion that was made. You can't add words to a motion.
Well, I know when I talked about it, I said responsive, so. Do what you please.
It was which one, Martin? 3
It's a responsive bid, not a complete bid.
on 3, 4.
Yeah, 3 Roman 4.
Okay, so it's responsive. Okay.
I'll
Nope.
listen back to the recording and change it.
And then the other thing that bothers me is number 6, public comment. It said none. We were going to have public comment, but Greg shut it off.
So there was no public comment.
I understand that. But I think it should say that he's the one that put the kibosh on it. It wasn't because the public didn't want to talk. That's part of democracy.
Okay, is there a motion to accept these minutes as corrected?
I make a motion to accept the November 23rd, 2021 minutes with the corrections.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye. Oh, excuse me, no. Behind.
Reports. Oh, who's first? Fire department?
Fire department, so everything's going well with us. We're training. Everything's going real well. We're responding to our calls. We've had some medical stuff come up that we've responded to. Trucks are chained up and ready for winter. At the bazaar, Natasha Clark had a chili feed. She, 11-year-old, donated all the proceeds to the fire department, $204. That will buy batteries and it could be as simple as stocking caps and stuff with winter coming on for the guys to stay warm. Anyway, yeah, report.
Okay, planning, we have one application.
Yes, it was a holdover. You guys were looking at to ensure, and I called him and he said he's 5'3" on the sideline of his setbacks. So setbacks are met.
Any other concerns about this? Comments?
I don't have a concern, just a comment.
Okay,
The rules say what the application should look like. It should have a north arrow, it doesn't. And so I don't want to hold it up for that. But we need to make sure things are done the way they're supposed to.
any other comments about this?
No.
Is there a motion to accept his application?
Make a motion to accept Robert Holmes' planning application.
Is there a second? Okay, Charlie seconded. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, Renee, will you let him know?
The building's already done.
Oh, that's right. Okay, Ryan Butler, Fish and Game?
Okay, for the record, I'm Brian Ratliff, work for the Department of Fish and Wildlife. I'm the District Wildlife Biologist for the Baker District and Food Center. With me, I have Justin Primus, who's the Assistant District Wildlife Biologist for Baker. And I wanted to stop by and talk to you guys a little bit about bears. So, for any of you that have lived in Sumter for a while, you know you guys got bears. You've had bears for a long time. Just recently, you had an incident where a gentleman left his place of residence in the evening, late at night, close to midnight, and stumbled into a bear. He didn't realize it was there. The bear tried to get away. In the commotion, the bear turned around and basically ran him over. So he ended up with some scratches and some bruises and some bite marks on his jacket. He is fine. The gentleman has not seen the bear since. So we made the decision not to go after that bear and remove it legally due to the fact that the bear was just simply trying to escape an unfortunate situation. With that said, I wanted to bring it to you guys' attention about with bears and the potential for negative interaction to occur. Why we don't want, nobody wants that to happen. The more bears that you guys have inside the city limits, the greater the chance that a negative interaction is going to occur. And it could be as simple as an unintentional encounter at night, and you may not get the same reaction that occurred this time. The bear may have decided, hey, this person fell down, and I'm going to attack him, or I'm going to eat her, or whatever. And so I want to talk to you guys about encouraging your residents to help get rid of the bears. And that's simply through a couple different means. One is to simply pick up food items, garbage, barbecues that are accessible, sometimes it's even bird feeders. In a lot of cases in Sumter, we have porches that have refrigerators on the porch. And the bears that frequent Sumter know those are food caches. So those bears, on a regular basis, are getting into those refrigerators. So working with your guys' community members to try to limit those interactions and limit those food sources, in addition to things like putting your garbage out like right before the garbage man comes instead of having it on the curb for 3 days before it gets there. Garbage trailers, that's a big one that needs to be taken care of. And then I also found out that you guys have a Facebook or website that you guys post stuff on, but encouraging your residents to report bear sightings. For example, if this gentleman had seen the bear a couple days before, he could have reported it to the city council. The city council could have put it on the website, and the neighbors would know, hey, if I'm going to go out at night, or let my kids go play outside at night, I should be aware that there's a bear been seen in the area. I think that would be a good thing to think about. But I just wanted to bring that all to your attention, since a lot of times I don't find out about it long after the residents know. But I'm hoping that maybe the city council can convince the citizens to kind of be a little bit more proactive about getting rid of bears. Everybody loves wildlife, but the more interactions that you have, the greater chance of negative ones going to occur, especially with bears that get habituated. I talked to Noah. He has not seen the bear since. I haven't had any reports of it. So unless the city council has somebody reporting to them, I don't believe the bear is still around. So do you guys have any questions?
So on the bears, the ones that you do have to trap, you do use them.
We do. So I don't euthanize them all. Some bears that get unfortunate caught inside city limits, let's say they come down, and it's kind of a judgment call, and they're just following the nose, and they find food, and people see them, and they run up the tree, and they're stuck in town. A lot of times, I'll take those bears and I'll release them. But if it's a bear that is feeding in a garbage trailer, or has been, in some cases, in people's houses, we do not relocate them. So they're euthanized.
I think some people didn't realize that 1 year that we had some, they didn't realize it.
Yeah, so those bears were, a lot of those bears were euthanized. Those bears were definitely getting into people's houses. I don't know if you guys were aware that one actually went into that lady's sunroom, which turned out to be the same bear that actually had found the guy's horse that he shot in the face, and it escaped. So even after that level of harassment, i.e., hey, somebody just shot me in the face and it went through my jaw and through my tongue, that bear still chose to go to somebody's house. So that's the type of bear that you do not want around. That bear is clearly habituated to people and food sources, and when it's going inside somebody's sunroom looking for food, the chances of something bad happening are really good. And in that case, that was an older lady who actually slept through the whole thing, which I'm glad nothing bad happened. So, but that was a few years ago that did happen. It was kind of interesting.
So we've got a website that's gonna be posted on.
We have on Facebook.
Yeah,
We don't have a website.
Yeah, we do, but there's not a lot of people that frequent the website because they're unaware of it. So I ensured that I put it on Facebook, which will get to more people.
yeah. However you guys decide to distribute that information, I'd encourage you to, like, if, let's say Bob sees a bear, then he just calls you guys and say, hey, I saw a bear on whatever First Street at this day, and then you just put it out. So the neighbors.
Well, and I can put that on the alert on our website, and then anyone who is signed up will receive a text.
Yeah, and that would be great,
Or
just
email.
to keep everybody aware of what's happening, so you guys can attempt to try to limit the negative interactions that occur. And that way, if you got a bear that shows up, if the bear's showing up right now, it's not a big deal. They should be denned up. If the bear's showing up and moving around right now, he or she's likely not going to den up, and that's when you're gonna have problems. That bear is gonna continue to look for food all winter long, and it'll be on people's porches, it'll be on people's porches and stuff. And that's what we're gonna try to avoid. So you can convince the citizens to report it to the city. The city can post it out so everybody knows, at least you're aware, and somebody doesn't walk around a corner and run into a bear. At least know.
Just out of curiosity, why wouldn't a bear den up?
So
I
a
thought
lot
it was natural.
Yeah, so a lot of times they won't. If they're in poor body condition, they don't have the resources to actually estimate or hibernate, so they will not den up. They will continue to try to make it all winter by picking on new food sources. And in the wild, in a natural environment, like the Sumter, but didn't have people, the amount of snow would really limit it, and that bear would likely move on or even perish. But in a place where there's food available, bears can survive the winter by just picking on food all winter long. So that bear, if it was choosing not to hibernate up, it could just raid garbage cans all winter long and make it through the winter. But that's one of the reasons they won't choose to do that, because they're in such poor body condition that they don't have it in them to do it.
So it's a matter of choice for them, huh?
It's not a matter of choice, but they don't actually fall asleep. So people picture bears that fall and completely sleep in a den. And been in bear dens, they're not asleep, guys. They're sleeping, and they're slow to react, but they're not like out. They don't like, oh, I'm so tired, I'm gonna go to bed. They go in, they relax, they fall asleep, they wake up, they turn around, they relax, they fall asleep. They do that all winter long. They're not just out. So, and then in this case, the bear has so much lack of body condition that it's hungry. So it's kind of like you. It's like you lay down in bed, you're like, I didn't eat dinner, and you're like, oh, I'm so hungry. By morning, you're like, I'm getting up. You're done. The bear's the same deal.
Sounds like my son. Goes to bed, wakes up, rolls over.
Yeah. So I just wanted to make you guys aware of it, and that's all I really wanted to do. And answer any questions you guys have at all. Okay. Well, I brought you guys some handouts for living with black bears and some refrigerator magnets that remind people not to feed bears. And I will leave them with you. Thank you.
And thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Rob, you want to pay some bills?
We'll pay some bills. Council is most council has reviewed the bills. They're available, and everybody else wants to look at them. Okay, top of the report, bank balance, we currently have $88,291 in the checking account. You can see our estimated bills, property taxes, we did collect quite a bit in November, which is expected. November 15th is when the first receipts start coming into the county. County distributes those as they get them. So we collected $83,000 last month. As you can see through the bills that we had, and we're paying this month, not a ton, it's a pretty low month. Just a couple of highlights here. We had another $5,000 to Buckley Law, $187 in new charges, $65 in interest. We owe actually less than $10,000 now, and so once that $5,000 is paid, next month will be the last. Hopefully, those are new charges. My bill's in there. Litigation support from our city attorney, is on there as well. And then we had just their annual water quality permit, and then some propane delivery. So total expenses that we're asking for approval for now are $18,965. If you go to the next page, next page. Those are just continuation of the estimated expenses that we pay on a monthly basis, giving us an estimate of where our cash should be about a month, about $80,000. There's actually a couple other checks that are in there related to the litigation that are not taken into account on this. And then down at the bottom, you have our total city cash balance of $283,493. That $56,000 change is because those property taxes are actually deposited directly into the Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks.
So do you guys have anything you want to discuss or discuss the bills? There is one thing on here on the Buckley Law bill. We have $1,000 in trust from the other lawsuit that was Myron's that was settled. And I need to know if we want to apply that to Buckley's bill. And then that would leave us $33.89 to pay him off, that we can instruct Rob to pay him off at the next cycle.
It's not committed to anything else that we have to do as part of the settlement, is it?
No, it wasn't. So we just reduced what we owe, and then we could just pay him and be done with this whole bill. With the first and next year, Robert, the next bill cycle.
I mean, the only hesitation I would have is you could just pay the whole thing and then he sends you a check for the 1,000 minutes release. I just don't know what the timing is on the release of that $1,000.
It's ready to be released.
Then I would go ahead and do that.
I move we do it.
I'll second.
So we're gonna release $1,000 and then we're gonna pay this off at the next cycle.
So we're gonna make it in addition to a $5,000 payment?
So there's the 5,000 now,
Yep.
and then there's something less than 5,000. I'd have to look at it.
Yeah,
'Cause
then
we're under-
3,300.
yeah, what-
About 3,300.
It's $33.89.37.
So I was gonna pay it next month, but I could cut another check this month if you want to do that. Just for timing. We already did the checks for this month. But I can do another one, it doesn't matter.
6 and 1/2 dozen the others. It's a cash flow matter.
He will charge us some interest though if we wait until next.
Yes, he will.
So by cutting another check, we would not have one more month of interest.
We'll do that, and then if one of you could sign it next time you're in Baker, we'll send it right out.
Is that,
What was his interest rate again?
we're
It changes every month. The current interest rate is 6.46%. It's
Is
as
that,
high as 10 something.
is it well, it's obviously then not a floating rate with a margin and an index.
I have no idea what it is. This is why I posted on here, because rather than using it.
Do we have an agreement that says he can charge interest and how it's computed?
I think it's just on his invoice.
That doesn't cut it. I mean, we discussed this interest before, and for the job he did for us, I really think we ought to tell him to shove it, but we're pretty close to the end.
I will do whatever council instructs me to do.
So do we want Rob to cut another check and just be done with this month, or?
You mean for like 8,000 or whatever?
Yeah, it would be for,
8,380.
Is that gonna jeopardize us cash flow wise?
No.
Yeah, then go ahead and do that.
A motion that we pay off Berkeley Law in full.
Second.
all in favor? Okay, any questions on any of the other bills, or I'll take a motion to pay the bills?
I don't make a motion to, pay the bills for this month.
Second.
All in favor?
All right, can we tell Buckley we want an electronic copy of his file? In case this ever comes up again, there could be research in there.
Okay. Okay, all in favor of paying the bills?
Aye.
All right,
Oh, okay, we'll pay the bills. And Rob will, I'll come by and sign that check.
Sounds good.
Okay, old business. You guys don't have anything on your list. I do have a couple things. We've been kicking the cell tower application around, changing it for quite a while. We finally got the original document, which Renee sent to all of us. And I'd like to see if we can all review it before the next meeting, so we can discuss this and decide if we want to do anything with it. Did you all get copies of the initial document?
When did you send them? Long time ago?
Yeah, a month or so ago.
Okay, I'll look at it.
can I get another copy,
Sure.
please?
Sure. I'll just send them back out. Do you guys want paper copies or do you want electronic copies?
I have
Electronics
paper-
will do.
I have paper copies. Paper.
Paper.
Okay, so that way we can discuss this and see if we want to go keep tabling this or just get it done with. And the other thing that came up is back in 2017, when we approved the pot money, they never did a resolution to how to split that money into what accounts. Because we've gone back through all the documents, cannot find anything, can find minutes, can find notes, but cannot find a resolution. Right now, it's being, what, it's 70-30 from,
Yeah, it's, you got 70% going to the street fund, which means that it can only be spent on street expenses. And it is. Well, if there had been a resolution, it would have been restricted to that purpose. We've been acting as if there is a restriction, but there is no restriction. And so that there's the question of what do we do with all the money we've allocated to that for these last few years? That's a council question. What do you want us to do with it? There is no restriction unless council imposes a restriction. The other is going forward. If you put it into street, you can only use it for street. If you put it into general fund, you can use it for anything, including street, via a transfer from the general fund to street. However you want to do it, you could put it into proprietary funds, which are your sewer and water funds if you prefer. It doesn't matter. It's whatever the city wants to from a strategy perspective.
Do we have to have budgeting resolutions to pay it back every year then? If we transfer it between funds?
You know, I that's actually a really good point, Martin. I hadn't thought about that. You actually did do budget resolutions for the prior years and the current year, which shows the distribution of those funds into this, of those dollars into those specific funds. So you could actually say you do have a resolution supporting that breakup, but you don't have anything specific per Linda's point that says, hey, the pot funds are gonna get broken up this way.
Somebody has their hand up.
Yes, I think there were notes before about it cannot be applied to any of the USDA loan payback. So is that still apply, is that a restriction?
I believe that is true because cannabis is an Oregon legal, it's legal in Oregon, but it's not for the federal level, and USDA owns the federal loans.
So right now, are we required to budget the repayment of interfund transfers with respect to the pot money? And if not, cash flow wise, where's the best place to put it?
You already have the budget done for this year. And it is split 70-30. And so you have a resolution supporting that allocation right now through the budget resolution. If you do any kind of transfer, yes, in the future, if that's more the question that you're driving at, if you were saying, hey, I want to put it all in the general fund, you budget that way, and you want to spend it somewhere, yes, you would have to actually budget a transfer into those other funds. You'll be using those other funds. You can also amend your budget. That happens all the time too.
That's a pain though, isn't it?
It's not fun, but it's doable. I mean, it's really not too bad. If you keep the amount small, if you make small changes, it's done by resolution. If you make large changes, it's done by a supplemental budget.
What do you suggest knowing our cash flow status?
I would, if it were me, I would have never allocated it to the street fund specifically. I would have said it's all going to the general fund and we'll use it on a year-by-year basis depending on where those needs are. That's just me, and I prefer flexibility, and I'm willing to give away control to have more flexibility. But that's just me. I'm not a resident of Sumter. I'm not a council member of Sumter.
We obviously don't know what we're doing, so that's why we're relying on you.
From a cash flow perspective, I think the audit just got finished for this for 2019, and we'll have to see what that shows. But that did two things. One is it released the funds from the state that were being withheld. We got notification that they'll be giving us that money here shortly if they haven't already. And then the other is it actually defined what our ending balance is in those in the various funds. So we can look at the street and see if we have a lot of money in the street. If we have a lot of money in the street, there's no need to continue adding to it. Is my point. In cash flow, yeah, I would say I would divert it away from the street. And if you feel like you need to do street improvements, budget a transfer into the street.
Well, it sounds like you need to look on our behalf at this audit to better advise us. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is not an extra charge. That's something I need to do.
No, I'm not concerned about charge. I mean, we want your advice. I expect we pay for it.
Yeah, we just got that, what, last week, at the end of last week, we just got it, yeah.
Wait and see what gets released.
Yeah.
So we just wait and see. Okay.
My view is we wait until Rob can better guide us on it.
Okay, so we'll just table this.
So then to clarify, going forward, right now, we're just gonna keep doing a 70-30 split because that's what's budgeted.
Okay.
Will you make a note for next year that maybe we want to change it?
Yeah,
Next budget.
absolutely. During the budget process, we'll have this discussion for sure.
Okay, do you guys have anything else you want to bring up?
No.
Public comment? Anybody? Okay, you're first.
I've got a few questions. Who would you looking at, Kurt?
Well, Kurt raised his hand too.
Go ahead, Kurt.
I just had something I should have put on the fire report. Remember our number one first run truck is non-certified still. So if there was an incident where we had guys interior and that pump quit and they never came out of that building. I think that'd be a lawsuit like that something's never dealt with before. So it's just something to think about. If there is extra funds running around, we should take care of that. Because I don't want to be liable for a death. When we've talked about it a few times.
I have a question. I've heard, how much money do you guys have in the Sumter Valley?
I don't know.
Because the rumor going around is you guys got like $10,000 in there. So I
I
haven't
have
got a
no
hold of
idea.
Nancy to talk about that.
Yeah.
Is that the guy in Halfway or whatever that you had to take him up there to get the bump fixed?
Yeah, and it can go, I mean, if you can find another one, more than willing to take it. I hate to have it, because it is four-wheel drive and chained up. I hate to have it leave right now, but I'm just saying that we do need to take care of that before something that could catastrophic happen. And it'll be a big issue.
Marcia, are you gonna try to reach out to
Yeah.
her?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll
I
talk
need
to
to
her.
know that, Kurt. Thank you.
You know, are you done, Kurt?
I'm done, yeah.
Can I, under old business, can I
Yeah, go ahead.
Marcia asked me after the last meeting why I voted against the settlement on the McKinney suit. And I want that to be known and to be part of the record. First off, the suit, we paid $250,000 total. There are rumors going around that we paid $350,000 and a bunch of other numbers, and people said $250,000 plus the $85,000 attorney's fees. So I just want it clear, it is $250,000. Period. End of story. They have to pay their attorney's fees out of that. Out of all of that, our share was $50,000. So, and I have a copy of that. If anybody wants one, let me know and I'll be happy to furnish it to you. And by the way, that was my opinion of what the settlement said, and Paige agrees. Insofar as the other reasons, other than paying the McKinneys any money whatsoever, troubled me deeply. I am of the opinion that the people whose lackadaisical attitude was the genesis of this suit were not called upon to contribute at all. And that really bothered me, because it was our own stupidity as a body that gave rise to this whole suit. The wages that were due could have been paid the day after they were terminated. And apparently they weren't. Those bear attorney's fees with them. So that cost us a bunch of money. And then there were the other things. Now, I don't know all the details of the alleged harassment or anything like that. I was led to believe we were guided through this by CIS, the terminations. Obviously, they don't know what they're doing, which I think they do know, or we didn't follow their instructions very well. And that's why I voted against it, because it was plumb stupidity that gave rise to this thing. And everybody's, gets to walk away. It's like John Young and his DEQ fine still owing. He never had to pay a nickel. So that's what I want in the record.
Thank you, Marcia. You had something.
Okay. That was my first question. Was how much? I think John Patterson, 379 Mill Street. I really think this should post something to tell everybody what actually happened in that lawsuit as far as how much we're paying and how we're paying it. So that the knows. Another thing that I've noticed is, Marcia and Charlie, what are you guys doing with the maps? Granite Street in particular.
What do you mean with the maps?
Well, the streets are now constructed, West Granite and up past Bruce Hoover's into Simonson's. Why did you change that?
Because the roads were transportable and that's what the state said to do. That's what we did. Because any road that's passable is a constructed road.
Okay, up at Simonson's, that's forest. There's no road up there, and Bruce Hoover's is a 2-level, you get into his house.
But the thing is though, there's still a road you still can get into it to get up there. And then after that, you end up still on city property because you end up on Simonson's ground. And that's in city ground.
Yeah, I know,
Okay,
but there's no road up to Simonson's through there.
there's not. But the thing is though, is the road that goes up past Bruce's is completed. It's there. So therefore, the state said to put it in there. So we did.
And it's traveled usually daily by the community is what your letter said, I believe.
I don't know what the letter says. I have no
It
idea.
said it's an open road traveled, used daily by the community.
Got a resident that lives there. He's using it all the time.
So,
He's got visitors and stuff. He uses it all the time.
okay.
Am I not right?
Well, it looks pretty much like his driveway to me. It does not resemble a city street.
Well, that's the same issue you have up in.
Did you check to see if it's?
Too.
Pardon, Marcia?
That's pretty much the same problem I have when I go to Borkville. I don't know if it's the road or somebody's driveway.
Okay, for one, quit calling it Borkville. That's very disrespectful to the Smiths. They don't like it.
Okay, just a minute.
So,
So is this in regards to the grant that you're asking?
I have no idea why that's why I'm asking you why
But
you
I mean,
did
that's
this.
what you're asking about these streets, okay.
Yeah. But
The grant, oh, you're asking about the grant?
I don't know. I'm just asking. I just noticed on the maps, and part of my property's missing up there, but that wasn't you guys. That was the state photographer on that upper lot.
We went through and because when we started doing the roads,
Oh,
to make them to where they're
right.
an approved road,
Okay, okay.
and that's what the state told us to do, is to go through, get your maps. If they're travelable, it's an approved road. It's there, it's constructed. I shouldn't say approved, constructed.
I expect a little more money, or a little more for my tax dollars than a goat trail up through the mountain and call it a city street.
Was that in writing, they said to do this?
Yeah, the grant documents.
No, these guys are talking about something totally different than the grants. Yeah.
And I'm kind of wondering whose
Maps-
authority you have to do it,
maps were
because it was never
updated.
mentioned other than you let it slip
He's
once.
asking about updated
Yeah,
maps.
it's updated, okay.
So why didn't the rest of the council? Why didn't you talk to the rest of the council about this or the property owners? Because you just cost the city money and you need money. That comes off my tax bill now. Comes off Bruce's and Simonson's.
So I guess I'm not
Because-
following why you're,
Once it's constructed, I don't pay taxes on that property anymore.
but it is a constructed street. So you were saying that all the streets in town that aren't constructed, that aren't currently constructed, we should leave them as not constructed?
No, I think he's asking by what authority did 2 council members change the status of the street without a vote from the entire council?
I called county and I asked them what constituted an unconstructed street and a constructed street. And they told me what it would take to do that.
Okay, well, Charlie said it was the state. So which is it, the county or the state?
The county talked to the county and they were talking to the state too.
Because it all has to be filed with the state.
So you're gonna plow those roads?
If need be.
Because they're constructed
They're
roads now, they're
constructed
not
roads.
plowed.
That's right.
Up to the bridge, to Mrs. Miller's, which is, I stopped, I'm the one that did that road, and I had your permission, I have a recording of me asking you, can I finish the road out, kinda, get rid of the big pile of rocks there, and I screened them, and I put the vines back, and I took the rest up to Daryl's. But that's not all the way onto Mrs. Miller's property either. It's about probably 15 foot short. So it's not constructed, it's a hill.
Well, according to where the pin is, it's at the toe of that hill.
It's up at that tree, I know exactly where that pin is, it's just to the right of that tree up there, the hill.
Yeah.
I could have cut the tree down, but I didn't, I wanted her, I'm trying to keep her privacy.
Right. And that's what she wanted too.
Mhm.
Because when we got the shop done and everything, we remember we went through all the hoopla of the lights.
Okay.
Shooting it out,
Okay,
so we did all of that, so yeah, that's part of the reason that's there.
okay,
But the road still ends right there at the property line. It don't go no further, because then you're on her property.
well, it doesn't get to her property, is what I'm telling you.
So what
In
else-
short.
What else you got?
Okay, so now you have an ATV bridge
Mhm.
in the middle of Granite Street. I called Noodle, he says it's legal, it's the county's bridge, but it's on a city street. Who's checking it? Mind the bank and all that. You know what I mean?
They did, when they came, they checked all these bridges.
They checked that ATV bridge
Yes,
too?
sir.
Okay.
Because the numbers that are on the bridge, right, the numbers that are on that bridge, when it ran through the state, it clears. It is a total 100%. You
That's,
can drive fire trucks across it, you can do it
I've
all.
seen the city drive a whole across it. I just,
I'm just
there's questions around town.
Okay, what next?
If it's a legal bridge or if it's not a legal bridge,
It's a
blah,
legal
blah,
bridge.
blah, and all the gossip. So,
3 minutes.
huh?
3 minutes.
I was shorted last meeting.
What else do you have? You just-
So let's keep moving it.
Well, I'm reading. Are you vacating the other streets in town?
Vacating?
Huh?
Vacating?
Okay. Okay, so didn't you put those streets on the map? Why didn't you do Cracker and Auburn too?
Because that's a whole other situation, John. That's a whole.
Okay,
other-
I've talked with Dennis Bradley. I met him out here 3 or 4 months ago. We walked the route. He was going back to talk to the archaeologist right then. He said he's been trying to get this done for 20 years.
Well, I think not, but that's okay. I'm not gonna call you a
Yeah.
liar.
Okay,
But the thing is though, is after talking with people, the thing is though, is because of the deeds up there, that's a lawsuit that's not part of the city. The city does not benefit anything from putting those streets in.
really?
No, they won't.
Noodle said he'd build it for us. I talked to him this last spring.
Yeah, you talked a lot to Noodle about a lot of different things, and there's a whole lot of stories
These are the
there.
same ones you're
No,
talking about.
Linda, this is important.
Is this the one
that
you're
can be-
talking about continually?
Pardon?
Oh, these is two we're talking about down here continually?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
We've already
Their
beat
city
that horse.
streets have never been vacated.
We've already beat that horse. Give us another-
That could be a safety route, what am I looking for? Basically, a safety corridor from that bridge to Sawmill Gulch. If we get through on Cracker Street between Woodley and Damaris's.
Cracker and Auburn has been a problem all along. We're not gonna discuss this tonight. We know this is an issue.
What are we gonna discuss? Because you can't table it indefinitely, that's not really a thing.
John, it's deeded property.
We've been.
It has been
We've
deeded
been
for
through
over
this.
100
We're not-
years.
Yeah,
We're not,
Marcia, like
we're
I
not-
told you before,
we're not gonna discuss this. We've already argued. We continue to argue.
when are we gonna discuss it?
I don't-
I'd like a date.
It's deeded property, and until something else comes along,
Okay, Marcia, Linda, Cracker Street was there before the railroad was here.
Correct.
Cracker Street was there before Marcia's property was broken into 2 lots.
well,
Cracker and Auburn were part of the essential part of this town. And they said, and it would serve many purposes to have those 2 streets in.
well, it would, but there's a lot of legal issues in regards to that.
A lot of those legal issues are self-generated because there are fugitive deeds involved where the descriptions were changed to include public rights of way, and the chain of title was not perfected. So what I suggest is we put this on the agenda and resolve it.
Okay.
Oh, one more thing. What happened to the $50,000 grant we had to restore the intersection of Center and Auburn? You're on the council, Linda.
$50,000 grant.
Yeah.
That's the one,
That's my turn.
That's the street
My turn.
street grant.
Yeah,
My
it's been
turn.
finished, yeah.
So because that was taken off, we did amendment to the grant. It's already been done. We've already got our money. That grant is already done. The money was spent on granite and ibex. It's done.
When was it done?
We just finally, when was it that $25,000 come through? Last 2 weeks ago, month ago?
The roadway.
We voted.
behind it.
There was no voting on it. This was a grant that happened back in 2019. I was just cleaning it up.
No, an
Was
amendment.
it 17 or 18?
It was 17 or 18.
I'd like to know what money was spent on granite.
The money to do the ditch, the money to do the drainage,
Yes, how much?
I don't have that specific amount in front of me.
Sure have to get it. Yeah, because we did that grant, that started in 2007 or 2017.
Yeah, I know. But I thought it was to restore the intersection of Center and Auburn.
I'd have to look at it, because it had like 5 different streets on it.
But when the lawsuit happened,
Got
all of the construction on that was halted in order for us to finish and get the money on ibex and granite that we had already done, and the stuff that we finished up on ibex and granite. We had to amend that to take out Center and Auburn because we didn't have access to it because of the lawsuit. So it was either time out and not get any of the money, or amend it and take out Center and Auburn so we can get the money.
Okay, my concern is the last time that came up to 25,000 is the city didn't have the receipts to prove they had spent 25,000 on street improvements. So did you just pick 2 streets and?
No, it was in the grant.
It was in the grant, and all the receipts were found.
So the only amendment was to take out Center and Auburn. That was
Did
the only
anybody tell
amendment.
Buckley Law that you have if you have a grant, it's not just abandoned? I mean, it's too late now, apparently.
Yeah. this is
Buckley don't
also-
listen to anything, but
The grant was completed, and we found all the receipts we needed to do our matching funds to get our refund. And it's over.
okay, good.
Thank you.
That's all I got. Oh, wait,
Oh, wait.
one more thing. And you've heard this before, but people aren't back here to yell at me this meeting. Jennifer likes rocks. Jennifer we just got done with a lawsuit that she was defended in. Those rocks are in the state right of way and Auburn Street. And admittedly, in a meeting, she said her fence is in there and she has a special agreement with the city. Are we gonna let that happen in another lawsuit? Somebody runs in them rocks, or are we gonna move them?
Well, if they don't hit the rocks, they'll hit the telephone pole
Well-
if it's in the right of way too. So either way,
But it's got an easement.
the telephone pole.
Telephone. Ability of the city. If we allow rocks in our right, that's different from an easement the power company has, goes back to God was a boy. It's a big difference for our liability.
You moved mine out of Riverside. So,
Riverside's the street.
Avenue,
So is Auburn.
so you your property, remember?
Okay. Anything else?
If we have a website, is it possible to put like the agendas and the minutes and everything
It's on there.
on it?
It's on there.
It's on there.
Why am I unaware of this website? And all the ordinances are on there too?
Not all the ordinances, no.
Yeah, just
The
What
current
is-
ones. that
What's
we
the
do.
name of this website?
cityofsumteror.com.
I think when she first set it up, she had informed council. I don't know if you were at that meeting or not.
Yeah, you were on council when
Okay,
we started. Oh,
or.com?
no. You weren't. It was before you came on. cityofsumteror.com, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I could get all this stuff in advance. Great.
You guys have anything else?
No, okay.
So motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
So,
Get the tag. Unless it's the grass. Grass.
Got all these pens sitting up here now.
Just watch the dog anyway.